hair is. Okay.
Oh,
Don't talk
Excuse me, just one moment. Right, morning everybody. Welcome to the Growth Scrutiny Committee, final one of this year. Damon, do we make some sort of announcement at this point normally? Do you do it?
Yeah, just to inform members that we are being streamed live to YouTube, and this meeting is being recorded for the purposes of the minutes.
Right, thank you for that. I've had a couple of apologies, Councillor Cornwall and Councillor Whitehead, wasn't it? Do we have any declarations of interest? Not at all. That's good. That's very good. And the minutes of the last meeting. Any issues? Anything anybody like to bring up from the minutes of the last meeting? Good. That's what I like to hear. Well, in that case, then I'd like to welcome Carl Apps to the meeting this morning. And he's going to give us a bit of a presentation, aren't you, Carl?
Yeah, that's right, Chair. Thank you. Are you happy for me to start?
Happy for you to start.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, is everybody able to see that?
Yes, I can see.
Yeah. Okay, so as you're aware, I'm here to talk a little bit about the One Public Estate today. Okay. So far we've secured £215,000 of external funding secured towards One Public Estate, and we've carried out 2 studies so far, locality reviews on the Avenue and another one on Clay Cross, and then currently we're carrying out one across Eckington and Kilowatch. So One Public Estate has 3 core objectives, and that's the creation of economic growth in the form of new jobs and homes, delivery of better integrated and customer-focused services, and the generation of efficiencies through capital receipts and reduction in running costs. So what that looks like in practice is quite often public services are delivered via a number of buildings that are spread across a town or a locality, and it's around how can that be more efficiently used. So quite often it's about co-location, and then what that means is that the spare land or building that was previously occupied is able to be disposed of, creating a capital receipt, and then that can be brought forward for either commercial space or housing, depending on which is most appropriate. And then the running costs of the new building is shared across others. Generally, it's a newer building as well, so it's a bit more efficient in terms of energy usage and also in sort of running costs in terms of liability for the maintenance. So as I say, we've carried out a locality review on the Avenue. So what you'll see here, if you can see my cursor, is that red part there. That's the bit where it's partly owned by the Homes England, and then also this pink bit, that's owned by ourselves, North East District Council. So it's around how do we integrate those 2 pieces into a considered development, because we know that this area here can be brought forward via the access that's already in, and it's how do we make sure that when we develop our part of the site, which would have an access at the bottom, that it's almost like it flows from one development into the other. So it's a considered development, which is obviously a lot more efficient, because if you do all the sewers and the road connections and all the same at the same time, you know that they all sort of fit in perfectly and they all flow right. And then the housing development also flows one into the other. So it's almost, you wouldn't realise that it's owned by 2 different organisations. So that master plan work has been carried out, and that's what we've secured, and this is what we're working towards bringing forward. So it's, as you can see, a housing development with a green corridor there, and then there's some commercial space a bit lower down there. As you're aware, as mentioned earlier, we've completed One Public Estate for Clay Cross. One of the main ticket items in that was a community hub. So there's 2 scenarios considered for that community hub, and that some of the suggestions were to co-locate the library, education service, health services, youth focused services, leisure provision, and a cafe. So that was one of the suggestions from the One Public Estate for Clay Cross as part of that. And so this is the first now that they suggested a town centre hub, keeping the current building, as you can see, and then having an extension on the side, proposed extension where, as I say, it's got the list of different things that it was proposing that could be brought forward as part of that development. So that was maintaining the existing building, and then the next one was a refurb. Sorry, not a refurb, a brand new development, as you can see just there, with the artist's impression of what it could look like in that area. What it also suggested, and one of the OP projects that we've been able to progress, is the Bridge Street depot. So that depot was let out to some businesses, but it wasn't really fit for purpose in terms of the energy supply. The water supply wasn't to all the units because it was an old depot that had been converted into usable space for commercial, but it wasn't really appropriate. And it was suggested in the OP work that we would clear that and bring forward some suitable commercial space in there, and we're looking to develop low carbon commercial space, which is great. So all the tenants have been successfully relocated. Demolition is complete, and the plan application for low carbon commercial space March 2021, and I've got a meeting next week to discuss what that's going to look like. So that's really exciting. That's an example of what's actually happened and was pushed ideally firstly through the One Public Estate, and then it came through the Claycross Town Fund. So as you're aware, we've secured hopefully you're aware, we've secured 24.1 million of funding towards Claycross, and that was through the town investment plan. But the basis for all of that work started in the One Public Estate work. That was the foundation that the town investment plan was built on. So a lot of projects identified within the OP work have been taken forward through the town investment plan, and now we've working towards drawing down that 24.1 million and developing the business cases for the different projects identified. Again, all had a route in One Public Estate, so it does show that it does bring forward redevelopment. So that's the ones that we've had so far and completed, and then moving on to the ones that we're in the middle of working on now. So we've got Eckington. So we're looking at development opportunities there and service provision across the town, primarily looking at the town centre, Castle Hill, the ambulance site, some bungalows again around Castle Hill, Royal Close, School Street site, and Pipe Yard Lanes playfield. So that's kind of been the main focus of the One Public Estate work, picking up all the key areas that I think are in Eckington, especially around the town centre, and then the provision of this sort of space here and whether that can be more efficiently used. So yeah, in Eckington, so the work that's been taken so far is we've got PER Consulting, and they've been working on that throughout the lockdown, which has been quite challenging for them. However, they've managed to do the background baseline study that's completed. Stakeholder discussions have been held. Options for project areas presented to the parish council. And the point we're at now is that we're working on the final option being finalised, and then the final report is due sort of this month into next. We've pushed it into after May, well in May, later on in May, because of the county council elections. The county council are obviously a partner within this, so they're kind of stopped at the minute in terms of the pre-election period of what they can and can't do. So we've pushed that final report to be signed off post the county council elections. Okay, so moving on to Kilowatch, which is one of the other principal towns in the district that we're working on. So again, it's the leisure centre, Stanley Street bungalows, town centre, Sherwood Road estate, and the Norwood Road industrial estate. Again, it's looking at how that space is used and if there's any ways for efficiencies, or it can be used in a more cost-effective way and maybe release some area for development out of residential or commercial. Again, very much as we were with Eckington, because we've taken Eckington and Kilowatch reports together forward at the same time. So again, it'll be after the county council elections that a final report will be signed off. So what we're hoping that we can bring forward for Eckington Kilowatch outputs is 50 new homes, a capital receipt of £1 million, reduce costs of £250,000 and create 75 new jobs. And for Claycross, 71 residential units, 2,000 of commercial space and potential receipts of £570,000. And the Claycross one is obviously progressing quite quickly because we have the town investment plan, and that will be the main vehicle for driving through the one public estate work. So that's a whistle-stop tour of the one public estate. Do you want me to stop sharing and I can answer any questions?
Please, Carl. Sorry, I was slow to unmute there. If you would, how does everybody feel about that? Diana, you've got a question?
Yeah, Carl, I've got a question. Going back to the avenue, the proposed new housing you've got there, is that part of already the strategic figures that are for the site, or are they new figures?
No, they're part of the already been accounted for in the area avenue area strategic framework. So that's sort of, it's for that whole area. So it does cover our development as well as the Homes England development. Okay,
fine, thank you.
Carl, can I ask you, as regards Eckington, is the provision in that on my screen? I can't see every detail. Was the provision in there for like a play area, like a children's play area in the development?
There wasn't, and that's predominantly because around one public estate, what the outputs is looking for is jobs or housing. So play areas don't fit in with that, but they don't produce the jobs and they obviously don't produce housing. So it's not something that would be included within that sort of piece of work.
All right, thank you for that. That's a bit of a naive question. Now you've said that, thank you.
No problem.
Nigel, are you there?
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I've just unmuting myself. Yeah, thanks, Carl. I just want to pick my words here a bit. I don't want to be too political about this, but it's fair to say that the one public estate was the, I think you've alluded to it, with the grounding for to get the Claycross Town Fund. So, and I know there were a lot of work went into that one public estate stuff, Carl, weren't they? Brian Harrison and yourself and others have done a lot of work. And I think it's also great that Kilowatch and Eckington's being looked at, because if we can get a similar money for those towns, then it'd be great. But we aren't being too political, and I don't blame people for jumping on that one, but it has got a history, Claycross. It's not just arrived at that. I think you know where I'm alluding to, so I'll leave it at that. Oh, and thanks for all the work from the officers to get that far. I think is important.
Yeah. Thanks, Nigel. Has anybody else got anything for Carl? Any comments? Everybody happy with that? That doesn't surprise me really, Carl, because you know a lot of this I can honestly say I don't understand, and I suppose we're in your capable hands to a degree. But thank you for your presentation this morning.
Can I just ask one quick question, please?
Of course you can, John. Yeah.
I was a bit late coming in. I just wondered whether you got any plans for Mill Lane offices and Ricknode offices, that whole area there, Cole. Does that come into it as well?
And there's some challenges around the offices because there's restrictive covenants on the property, so there's overages and all sorts. So it makes it really difficult for us in terms of if we were to do whole-scale redevelopment of those spaces. So I mean, as I think we can all recognise that Mill Lane's probably not the most efficient use of space with the courtyard in the middle, and that's not how commercial properties are developed nowadays. But unfortunately, because of these restrictions, it would cost, I think we'd have to pay something like £1 million to the previous owners if we were to do that. So that makes any redevelopment unviable. So that's really quite challenging in terms of what we do with that. So that almost takes away that option of, well, we'll flatten it and redevelop it for brand new commercial space, which I think realistically officers would think would be a more appropriate use of it. So we're kind of having to make the best of what we got because, as I say, there's restrictions in terms of what we can and can't do, which make it unviable for redevelopment.
Okay, thanks.
And also that property deal was done prior to my joining the council, so that's not my fault. Okay.
Thank
Just
you.
to make that clear.
Thank you, Carl, very much. Thanks for your question, John. Right, folks. Yeah. Well, thank you, Carl. Thanks for your presentation. We haven't got much to ask you, really, but it's kind of this morning.
I've got you. You should all have my email. So if you do have any questions, by all means, feel free to drop me a line on anything, really. If I can answer it, I will. If not, I'll point you to the appropriate officer.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carl.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right. Right. Well, we can move on to our next item, which is item number 5. Draft scrutiny review. Sue, I don't know whether you want to sort of come in on at this point and sort of give us a bit of a lead or a bit of a direction.
Yes, will do, Chair. It's just the concluding of your scrutiny review report that obviously you've done quite a lot of evidence gathering over the year. So this is the final report. I did put it out to members to see whether they had any comments to make on it. Just, both to be quite honest, accuracy, spelling, stuff like that. But also if there's anything in there that is not quite what you were looking for, or there's anything that you feel we've missed that you'd heard during the year that you want to include in that. And the next stage, what will happen is once you finalise it today, it will then be submitted to Cabinet in the near future for them to consider your recommendations. If they accept those recommendations, the lead officer will then prepare an action plan on how they're going to deliver those recommendations over the next year. That's about it, Chair. It's very straightforward. It's just about if members have any further comments or anything that feel that's missed.
Right.
Just to ensure that it meets what you'd heard and what you were thinking when you put your recommendations together.
Right. Thank you. So the question is, further, I know one or two have replied when Sue sent out the report. Has anybody got any further comments on it? Anything they'd like to add or take out? Or good. That's great. That saves me any further on that one. Right. Well, I can draw a line under that, I think. Then Sue. Number 6. Monitoring of O&S recommendations. Sue, thank you.
Yes, Chair. This is really just a summary of all the recommendations this committee has made and the other scrutiny committees made. And the reason we produce it and obviously put it in the public forum at the end of the year, so people, both public and members, can see that the recommendations that have been made, that action has been taken on them, and most of them are complete. So it's just really a matter of information on the fact that the recommendations have been taken forward, Chair.
Right, thank you, Sue, for that. Number 7, forward plan of executive decisions. To consider the forward plan of executive decisions, please note the most up-to-date forward plan of executive decisions can be accessed via the following link. All right.
This is the usual report, Chair, that you get that just tells you the decisions that are going to be taken in the next 4 months within the authority. I think usually if you've already seen them in other formats, but it's just to make sure that we don't miss anything that you might want to look at in scrutiny.
Thank you, Sue. Number 8, work programme. So as we're at the end, is there a work programme?
Well, again, Chair, this is to let you know that hopefully you feel that you've completed your work programme. I think you've obviously your chief focus this year has been on your review report, and of course the pandemic has made for a more difficult year in some of the things perhaps you might want to look at. So it's really just to ensure that you're happy you've completed, and obviously when we come back next year, you will start putting together a work programme, and we do that by asking any members, particularly if you're going to be sitting on the group, obviously with consultation with the chair, put in any items that you'd like to see perhaps on that work programme for next year.
Right, okay, thank you. Number 9, additional urgent item. I think that's just a continuation, isn't it? I don't think there is any
None, Chair.
There is a additional agenda item. I suppose I could use this moment just to sort of thank everybody for getting involved this year. I've only had the chairs for about a year, and I can be perfectly honest. And you've all been in the council a while. I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning, and there's an element I don't really know what I'm doing now. But thank you for joining in with me. I think I've waffled quite a bit to try and get you involved in the conversation, but your involvement has been appreciated. So thank you very much, everybody.
Anthony, you're a politician. Don't have to be that honest, mate.
No, the thing is, I don't think I am a politician, Nigel. Sometimes because I'm too. No, I'm not. So, Michelle,
I'd just like to say thank you for being an excellent chair.
I agree with you.
Say that anyway.
Not an easy one.
No.
It's a funny sort of committee I found, because really it's supposed to be non-political as well, isn't it? It's all about us just looking at what everybody else is doing and making comment on it. And I haven't come across anybody that's been politically motivated. So yeah, thank you for that.
And if I can say, Chair, as obviously the clerk, well, the officer looking after this committee, you've done. I'm not just saying this. You have done a lot of good work over the year, and as we've spoken of before, I think when you start on scrutiny, it takes a while, particularly with a huge subject like growth and the economy and all the areas that you cover, just to get all that background knowledge. Obviously, some members will have been in this before, so we'll have built that up over the previous years. But for people coming on new, it takes a while to get all that information, and you've heard a lot of information from various officers during the year. So as I've previously said, I think it's gone well, and I'm quite content with the things that you've covered during the year and achieved, and certainly with your review report, which we'll submit to Cabinet. I think that's been a worthwhile piece of work.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you for your feedback, Sue. It's very much appreciated.
You're
So,
welcome.
I think all of us here are staying on, aren't we? Next year, your plans to stay on? I
Think so.
So
Hoping to.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah, we'll just go forward. One or two new people, I think. So the date of the next meeting is Monday, the 28th of June. All right. You're muted. Some say it's better that way, but.
Chair. Yes, it is, Chair, and it'll soon come round.
It will, yes. It won't be long at all, will it? And I think all the restrictions will have been lifted by then, won't they? So we might be.
Will we be in house then?
We might be in house. I don't know. I don't know. Nobody's told me any different, but I know it's nice doing it on Zoom, but there's something slightly better. I think being in the same room.
Yeah.
Mike.
Has a decision been made yet whether we're staying on Zoom or going in house, or 50-50? Has anybody heard anything?
I don't know whether a decision's been made. I mean, for me, I'd rather, even though it's inconvenient, if you like, but I'd rather be in.
Yeah.
Come into the offices personally, because I think, well, they're paying me for it, and you've got to be switched on when you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Super.
Chair, if the committee are wanting to have a discussion, we can finish the public meeting and go into just an informal chat if you're wanting to talk about next year and things like that.
I don't know anybody particularly. I think it's just me waffling now. Whether anybody wants to chat about it, but no, I think for me, I think we can pretty much close the meeting.
Okay.
Everybody okay with that?
Thanks, Anthony. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thank you. See you
Bye.
all later.
See ya, mate.